You know that moment when the customer steps out of the car after the test drive? Smile from side to side on their face, eyes wide open, heart racing. They are in love with you and they are in love with that car. You've done everything perfect to this point. You've taken a look at all of the data from your needs assessment. You have taken all of that. You sold your 5 to 7 items that click with that customer that we talked about in the last episode. And then all of a sudden, you spit this out. All right, come on in. Let's go over the numbers and we'll get this thing in your driveway. Now, be it a good time to ask something like that, how you go about it actually just, well, took out a big chunk of your gross profit. You offered up to give the customer a ton of money to take the vehicle with them. That doesn't help out your profit, it doesn't help out your front end gross, and it doesn't help out your paycheck. Today, we're going to be talking about rushing the deal and completely blowing it right after the test drive. This is when you start introducing logic really early when the customer is still trying to wrap their brain around if this thing is perfect for them. You had them at a huge high, and then all of a sudden you smash that high down into the ground because, well, we started to rush. And you get to the desk, you toss around those numbers, and that rushing then gets the customer to go, hey, you know what? The sparks disappeared. I'm not really in for it. We're $100 away a month, and I'm going to take you for all you got. Oh, you took that $100. I'm going to take another 50. Now, if you're new to AutoKnerd, my name's Andrew Sardone. I have been doing automotive training for 25 plus years, and before that, sold cars for a long time. Been spinning wrenches on cars my whole life. In addition to that, I started off in parts. So, dealership life has essentially been my life. It's what I do, and I help out thousands and thousands of sales consultants every year become the best possible version of themselves to be able to make as much money for themselves and their family as possible. And I am on a personal mission to make darn sure that by the end of my life, we are looked at as respectable individuals. Today, we're going to dive on into the topic of rushing the deal right after the test drive and try to make sure that we can continue that emotional high for the customer as we move forward throughout the deal. Here we go. Now, this is not a topic that is new in the industry at all. It's just something that is skipped over, I'd say a lot, or something a lot of people just typically don't think about, is after the test drive, what exactly is going through that customer's head? Because again, it's not about us, but if we make it about us, everything just tends to fall apart. Well, CDK Global did a study on this specific thing, and they want to know what was going on when a customer took a test drive. Does it actually play a role into buying the car? And there's many people out there that can make the justification that test drives don't matter. I've heard all of their excuses, and quite honestly, that's just an excuse for laziness. The test drive does matter. It doesn't matter what type of vehicle that you're selling. But what CDK Global found out, they found that 78% of buyers who went on a test drive said that the test drive alone is what sold them on the car. And it's always funny when I read this stuff and I was like, really, the test drive alone? You had to get to the test drive. So that means that you have to talk to somebody. And considering that we're the number one reason you don't buy and you do buy, there's a good possibility that consultant played a role into that. But we'll get back to that in a second. Auto Trader took a look at the statistic and they backed it up. And they said 3 out of 4 adults who test drive end up buying that vehicle that they test drove. Ah, but there's a twist. It's not the driving that closes the deal. It's what happens directly after. That 60 seconds of the customer getting out, looking at the vehicle, and riding that emotional high is gonna help you be able to close that deal down with the customer carrying that emotion, that charge, that ability to say, "I need this." Or shifting back into defensive mode when they realize that now you're sinking your teeth in and you're ready for the numbers. Anytime we decide, hey, let's go move forward, let's try to get closer to the numbers instead of easing into it in a natural way, it always gets the customer to put the armor back up. And as I've said a billion times, our job is to drive that anxiety down and drive the desire, the need, the want, the happiness quotient up. The ability to get that customer to have the confidence to move forward without you having to sound like you're trying to close them. Anytime we start rattling off things that sound like a close, all of a sudden that person starts backing up, and really not for nothing. Can you blame them? It's one of those areas that we are constantly told, watch out, they're going to try to hose you here. And people quite literally do all this research just to figure out how to get the best deal, when the best deal is getting the vehicle that you want from somebody that can actually get it done for you and listen to what you need. Back to basics with this one here. When we're going on the test drive, we can't jump to that close too fast. A few years back, I had the opportunity to ride along with some sales consultants that were trying to iron out their test drive, and they couldn't quite figure out what was going on. One was having major success, and the other one was kind of falling flat on his face. And I saw why pretty quickly. While we're on the test drive, one of them is having an enjoyable conversation with the customer. One of them is pointing out feature after feature after feature. The individual who was pointing out feature after feature after feature wasn't really spending too much time improving his game, his ability to connect with another individual. The other sales consultant was talking about everything, everything under the sun. They were talking about at one point football. They were talking about cartoons. I thought that was hilarious. But as they went down this conversational rabbit hole, the customer just kept saying things about themselves, about their life, and the consultant kept tying back to it. This allowed the customer to feel more along the lines as if the consultant actually cared about them as a human. This was huge. Consultant number one just continued to go on and on and on about the car has this, and here's how it works, and the car has this. The customer's driving. Cut it out, right? Point out a couple interesting things like, do you know how to view the gauges in this car? They're all digital now. Oh, no, I don't. Let me point out a couple of those things, but let's go drive the vehicle. At the end of the test drive, sales consultant one immediately jumped right into the numbers. Every single one of his customers seemed to have this small dose of fear because it was, let's go work the numbers, let's go inside. Well, not all of those deals that he did throughout the week were minis. Actually, quite a few of them were pretty good grossing deals. But the ones that were great grossing deals, he stopped and he paused. And he did what sales consultant number two did, because I think he was genuinely trying to figure out what he was doing wrong, because he knew his income was kind of low. Sales consultant two, who is the great conversationalist, has having these wonderful conversations with the customer, allows the customer to get out of the vehicle after every test drive and continue that conversation. Except he continued it about the car. For about 2 minutes, the customer would go on about the steering of the vehicle, the quiet cabin, how, them as a couple would drive in the vehicle with the climate controls. And 10 minutes later, every single one of his customers would sit down and start to sign. And yeah, there were a few in there. Then they kind of put boxing gloves on, but there will always be a couple. Point is that the vast majority of consultant two's customers signed at high gross because the desire was there to want the car, to need the car, to know that that car was the perfect one for them, and anything else would just quite literally be less. Whereas consultant number one would try to push that deal. And I understand, get the marks on the board, get to the end of the month, you get your bonus cash. But what if I told you that bonus money, that extra $2,500 that you would receive if you sold 30 cars that month, is just a driver to get you to simply just be more productive at moving that metal? Instead of building gross profit in the vehicle, if you built gross profit in the vehicle, $2,500 would just be chump change at the end. I'm not saying don't go for it, but what I am saying is that a little bit more time spent with your customers is not only going to make the you happier because your paychecks will be much larger, but it's also going to make dealership and ownership happier because you're actually bringing in a higher ROI on every single vehicle. And this is super cool. The dealership, in terms of ROI, makes a large investment into you, and you need to prove that you can actually pull it off. I've seen some dealerships where the last sales consultant is never actually fired. Like they leave that guy, but they fire everybody else. Why? Because the gross profits are up. Now, many of us get paid on gross. And if you are at a volume store, I get it. You push the numbers, but at some point you have to look at your CSI and wonder, why is my CSI so low? Well, your CSI is so low because you're talking about things that the customer really doesn't want to care about or they fear. This is when things like money becomes a major problem. It's because we push it right at this point when we should be allowing emotion to get the customer in the door to sign. It's not that hard of a thing. Consultant number two just would carry on the conversation the whole time. Back to the door, customer sits down, there's your payment, customer signs done because the customer has that embedded need. Think of the post test drive as a micro step in the test drive process. You have the test drive and everything that's built off of, but as soon as they get out of the vehicle, that micro step, that post test drive moment, we have to think about it more as a bridge. Now, I like talking about bridges and making little connections along the way because they allow us a definitive path where most of the sales process is all these parts that were written out in the 30s, and apparently we're supposed to jump from one to the other. But the roadmap was really never supplied for these. Now, the bridge post test drive, you got emotion on one side and you have logic on the other. If you run across this bridge too quickly, logic jumps on in and just takes over and kills the whole thing. Remember from the last podcast, episode 62 there, emotion basically says, yes, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then logic comes in and says, are all the boxes checked off? And do you feel okay? If emotion is going, oh, yeah, I feel great, then usually, even if all the boxes aren't checked, then logic says, all right, I think we're going to be all right. And we see this happen all the time. I mean, the motorcycle business probably wouldn't exist if the emotional side didn't come up first. If we stay too long, logic, though, it never shows up. And that emotion just keeps going. And we need logic to come in. We need logic to say hello. We need logic to give that final seal of approval. But we have to play in emotion the vast majority of the time, meaning keep it fun, keep it light, keep it enjoyable. But that bridge is built on 3 questions, and obviously, jumble it around however you would like. But the first question here is, how did that feel compared to what you expected? This again digs into the emotion because we're asking the customer to judge the vehicle based on emotion. And if they have a smile from side to side, this is going to be a positive answer. Next one, what stood out the most to you? This again gets back into emotion. So, what made you the happiest? What was the most enjoyable thing here? What excited you the most? Well, I saw the blind spot come up in the gauges. Holy smokes! Then that will allow you then to say something to the effect of, "Hey, if we ran the numbers, is this the one you'd want to take home today?" And if they say yes, it's time to start walking inside because they're on that emotional high. Keep that going. You just confirmed, all right, cool, that's the one. If you've done that, you introduce logic for a brief moment on the radar. Now the customer is starting to take ownership, and you've introduced questions that turn those feelings into clarity. Now that clarity is built into confidence, and that confidence is now moving into commitment after that last question. You see, as I've been saying along the way, is that closing starts in the beginning. Closing starts and ends after pretty much your conversation with the customer during needs assessment, if you know how to use the information that they provide. In this case, 2 emotionally charged questions, and then 1 question that brings logic in, logic checks the box, and we move on. The reason this works is pretty incredible. And as many of you know, I like to relate a lot of stuff to just how humans work, because why not just play with the rules that we live by instead of trying to manipulate them and pressure the customer into a deal? I like great surveys and I like big fat paychecks. So the reason this works is that a survey that was put out by Capital One not too long ago it said that buyers find that the test drive is the most important part of buying the car. And I can agree to that. If you don't test drive the car, you're, especially used, you're kind of putting yourself up for a lot of potential issues in the end. But neurologically, there's actually something here. You see, excitement and fear live in the same part of the brain. If you rush the excitement, it then flips to anxiety. Huh, that's kinda crazy, isn't it? If you help anxiety, you can move it away and get desire going, you can get excitement going, and this allows people the ability to go, "You're the right person." But if the customer gets out of the car and we rush right to the numbers, all of that positive emotion instantly goes in the other direction. So now you have somebody that is insanely anxious. Good job. You went from a plus 100% to negative 100%. This is not helping you sell a car at this point. But when you pause and let them process for a quick moment, the brain actually links those excitement feelings to ownership. Yeah. That ownership of, "I am not leaving without this thing. I do not care what gets in my way." And that's the charge that we want. We want the customer to not have anxiety brain. We want excitement to go, "No, no, no, I am leaving with this thing, and I don't come hell or high water, I am pulling out of this place with that." Because that desire can become very strong. So when you pause, you're helping their nervous system make a confident decision, and you're not necessarily selling anymore. The customer is just buying, and that's how it should be. That's how it should have been from day one. But for EVs, it's actually even stronger. 87% of EV shoppers said that the test drive was a non negotiable part of the whole thing. And the reason for this is that all EVs tend to drive dramatically different from one to the next. In addition to that, when somebody takes a drive in an EV, it starts to cross off all those negatives that they tend to think that EVs are about. Like, oh, they're really expensive. No, actually, let's go down to our charging station real quick here. And oh, look at that. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's look at the window sticker. You see that thing that says MPGE? Yeah, that's how far you can go if you spend like $3.50 on a gallon of gasoline. If you just spend $3.50 on electric. Are you serious? Yeah, but if you charge at home at night, that number like triples. Oh my gosh. Now you have a believer. All right. This is that instant torque, that silence, and that ability to show the customer, hey, no, you're come to the right place and you're on the right path. Don't believe all the noise out there. We're now building belief with this customer. This customer is now invested in this vehicle and they're taking it. And quite honestly, there's not much that we can do once we have the emotions locked in place. We blow this up when we rush. It's that easy. And here are some examples. We start talking before the customer does. Remember that time of just be quiet. It's the customer organizing in their brain. Their emotions are flowing and they're trying to assess that. Give them a moment. Let them, because they're going to end up in a happy spot. It's like after you show the customer the numbers, just shut up. The first person that speaks loses. It's just what happens because you call up logic. We need the customer to stay in that realm of emotion at this point in time. Or we do something like mistake enthusiasm for commitment. And this is really easy to do. And it just comes to you spending enough time with that customer, knowing who this person is, and that you've kind of picked up on a few of their mannerisms of, okay, they're really into this thing. They're now talking about, how they would clean it and stuff like that. Come on in with me. We're going to take a seat and you're going to put this thing in your driveway. Or we walk straight to the desk without any pause. We pull up to the first parking spot. We get out of it. We look at the customer and we go, all right, come on. Because I've already asked you a dumb question in the car about how much money I can knock off to put this thing in your driveway. If the money's right today, will you go ahead? And yeah, of course we would. Yes. Let's go ahead and take a look at a beautiful vehicle. And I'm going to tell you 250 a month. If you can get 250 a month, I'm in. And then you're going to tell me about leasing. Stop doing that. You're just hurting yourself. When the customer doesn't have the ability to reflect on the vehicle, you skip trust and you tell trust to take a back seat because again, here comes logic. And logic's going, hey, this person's talking you up. They're getting you emotionally motivated. Get yourself back in check. And we want them to be emotionally motivated. This should be a fun time. Trust is what converts test drives into signatures. It's the emotion that converts those signatures into dollars. Again, logic is introduced. We then sit down and we're battling. That's not cool because trust was built in that fortified concrete castle wall the customer came in protecting them, eroded with fun and enjoyment. You got to keep that going at this point. Now, the pros have come out and they've given us a list of here's what we do to close a lot of deals. The first is this: let the silence breathe. Give it about 15 seconds, and that silence will become golden. It's again the customer sitting in their own positive emotions at this point. They researched this vehicle, you showed them the vehicle, you sold them on the 5 to 7 things that are going to change their life. Give them a minute or so to sit in those positive emotions. Next one, mirror the body language. If they linger near the vehicle, linger as well. Well, why not? You're not in a rush for anything. Yeah, you'd like to close the deal down, sometime this week so you get paid out on your paycheck, but don't go and push the customer at this point and tell them, well, come this way. No, they want to be by the car. Allow them to be by their vehicle. The next one, ask them a sensory question. How did the steering feel? Something that allows memory to connect back to the physical body, because this puts them back in a position of that point when I was enjoying it. If you look over at the customer and you're in the passenger seat on the test drive, watch for the smiles, watch for the glazing over of the eyes. When you see these things happen, now this is when this customer is starting to transition in their emotional state from, well, I was curious about this to now, how can I put this in my driveway? When you see that, don't say anything. Don't say a word. Let the customer stay in that space for as long as they can. Now, obviously, if they blow past the exit or they're about to go through a stop sign, maybe snap them out of it, but allow that glazing over, those mental juices to do their thing because they're only of benefit to you. Then the next one here, ask one emotionally based question and keep it positive. Can you picture yourself driving this every day? You know they love this car. You see them smiling. You see their excitement. If they say yes, awesome. It's now time to come on in. Just don't mention like, hey, let's go do numbers because saying something like that feels threatening. You got to combine that calm and quiet confidence together. And when you do, you'll end up closing far more deals this way, and the customers won't feel that you're pushy. But let that silence breathe, mirror their body language so they feel more comfortable. Ask one sensory question to get them back into their body, into a positive mental state, and then bring on that emotional question and get them to confirm that yes, they would indeed love to put this thing in their driveway. In this week's tool, we're going to call it AutoShop from now on. AutoShop is where you're going to get the free, the pro, and the elite. Now, the web page is still under construction, which means that I'm still giving everything away for pretty much free on the web page. If you want the tool, just click the link in the show notes. Completely free. Take it, run with it, enjoy. Now, if any of you have used the tools before, I do get feedback quite a bit, and they seem to be helping an awful lot. Now, the free one is this week is basically a recap card of the podcast and what we talked about, and you'll notice that all the free ones are pretty much like that. Where it's going this the week is going to give you 3 questions and 2 definitely don'ts. And you're just going to keep it simple. And the pro mode, when you go on up to that, this is going to be for the consultants that really just want to fix their stuff. They want to be the best that they can be, but they also want to put in the effort. Well, there's not really a training system out there for you. So with this, you can enroll in that, and the pro tools will come on down to you, and you'll have everything the free tool gives you, plus a lot of exercises to help you every single week. Eventually, we will digitize that, gamify it, and it's going to be pretty epic. Now, the Elite Manager packet that is there is going to be for the whole store. We're going to do a sales, parts, F&I, everybody wrapped into there. So every week, your dealership can have one type of training. Now, that will coincide with our Auto Forge tool. The Auto Forge is meant to forge a different type of behavior in a dealership. Now, if that's something that you're interested in, just email me at andrew@autonerd.com and we will fully customize a week to week schedule to repair your CSI and get your dealership on a long term path to just absolutely being epic again. If you're an owner, take control of your store. This is one very easy way to do it. I work with your managers and my team builds out the tools, and we make darn sure that you have success. But as far as an individual, that's what the Auto Shop's for. So the Auto Shop, click the link down in the chat, download the free tool. Again, it's all free right now. And in a couple weeks, once that web page is going, then we can finally get to work and start cranking out tons of these things. I probably have a stack of 100 of these things just sitting here waiting to hit the Auto Shop on AutoKnerd.com. So hopefully fairly soon. And remember, the test drive isn't just about horsepower and tech. It's a spot where the emotional connection to the customer meets the road. It's the part where the customer finally gets a chance to drive their new best friend, the thing that they can hang their ego on every day when they open their garage door up. We are simply there to assist them in visualizing what their future can be based on the information that they've provided. So when we slow down and listen, we don't just sell cars, we end up building confidence in the customer's ability to say, yes, I can do that. Because many people come in with all this research going, no, what am I supposed to do with this? Or are you going to attack? So the goal in the end is not simply to get the customer to say yes today. It's to get a happy yes out of them that lasts through the survey, that provides great CSI, that lasts through the service visit and gets them coming back to you again. Because the toughest thing to find in this business is somebody to buy a car from. And in the end, remember, the real close happens long after that paperwork is done. We want to get that customer coming on back. We're here to make a career out of this. This isn't a singular deal. We need that customer coming back again and again and again. So until next time, this is Andrew Sardone from AutoKnerd, where kindness sells and confidence simply just sticks when we do our job right. Until next time, I will see you all next Thursday. Have a great one.